Hello, I am Néfur, and today I'm very happy to have Andri Magnason as a guest for the Glacier Song podcast, author of the book Time and Water. Hello, Andri, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So, Andri and I met originally 3 years ago, and it was 2 days before my visit to Ok, the first Icelandic glacier that lost its glacier status in 2019. And I remember we met for coffee in Skefan.
Amazing Skefan.
Amazing Skefan, and then Björk turned up, so after you left. So it was a pretty epic morning.
Okay. Yeah.
And in that time, 2021, I was...
Björk in Skefan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she turned up a few minutes after you left.
Yeah, that's why I call it Amazing Skefan.
Exactly, anything can happen.
In Skefan, yes. I did a book of poetry about Skefan.
I'd love to hear that and to listen and to read that. Yeah. That's today we're gonna talk about glaciers, and precisely at that time I was starting my project recording the glaciers of Iceland. And I after reading your book, I was very fascinated by it, and I wanted to meet you. And I think it was very special that I met you just before going to Ok, because Ok was almost like the peak of my experience in recording the glaciers. And one of the things that you told me became very influential for the work I ended up creating later. And you, Andri, told me that one of the meanings in Icelandic of the word Ok, which is the name of the glacier, one of the meanings in Icelandic is egg. Egg is a zygote, as the primordial cell resulting of the union of sperm and an ovule, a cell that contains all the information for the rest to follow. And in a way, you suggested that Ok contains the information for the future, for the glaciers in Iceland.
And everywhere.
And everywhere, exactly. So if this first cell has disappeared as a glacier, what do you think we need to be aware of, and how do you think we can engage with this information for the rest of glaciers in Iceland and in the world?
Yeah, so the Ok Glacier was officially declared dead in 2014. And I was assigned to write the memorial for the plaque in 2019, and it took me some time to scratch my head of, I'm putting something on the plaque that will be more permanent than anything that I've written, as long as the plaque exists. And copper can exist in its state for 6,000 years. It would last longer than the stone it is put on. So I started to think, and the name Ok is peculiar because it's like okay, and normally names in Iceland are like Eyjafjallajökull or something, so they're long, but this is a very good logo. So if we think Gaia of Earth has some kind of a meaning, or is sending messages to, then of course Okjökull is a very good logo to strike awareness, and it's almost like an international. It's the only Icelandic place name, I think, that is basically international. So
wow.
So Ok, it means okay. No, it does not mean okay. It means okay everywhere else than in Iceland,
exactly.
actually. So Ok is not okay anymore.
Yeah.
And no, so the chain of thought. So Ok is not okay, but Ok is also a yoke that is like the beam to carry water.
Yes.
But also the beam to join two oxes for a plow. So, but it's also a burden. A yoke is also like something that is put upon your shoulders. So a burden. But Ok is also, from the joining, is also yoga. The Sanskrit of yoga, which is also very big.
So many different meanings and significance.
So the chain of, but it's also in the Icelandic language, the zygote. That is this first
cell in union.
This union, and in a way, it's more like a death zygote. It's like the last. It's like the last, not the first, or the first of. Yeah, it is the first of
the last
of the many lasts. Yes, it's the first of the last. So the chain of thought went into Jökull is not okay anymore. It was the yoke that carries the water, but now the water is gone to the ocean. It has become the yoke of future generations. But it's also the oak cell, the zygote, for the future of all glaciers that eventually will melt the Himalayan glaciers and disrupt this humongous yoga of the balance of water, ice, rain, snow, and seasons in the Himalayan region, threatening billions of people. So I don't think any place name. I'm looking at Esja now, Mount Esja.
Yeah.
I can't make a chain further than Esja. Even Snæfellsjökull, which is here. I can point to Jules Verne, and maybe to aliens or something, but I can't make a chain of
consequences as well.
Consequences and words and symbolic alternative meanings. So it's a perfect poetic name.
Yes.
Yes. So basically, many other glaciers have already gone, and of course, a glacier is not a glacier. So Okjökull was a very small one, while Vatnajökull is like 1,000 meters thick.
Yeah, and it has many outlet glaciers.
And has many outlet glaciers. So, but basically in the big picture, most of them will be gone in the next 200 years. Of course, but now we're getting information that the cold blob, this possible disruption of the AMOC, this branch of the Gulf Stream that is kind of keeping Iceland and Europe, and that if this is disrupted, then we could see at least actually a major cooling event here, and in the UK and in Scandinavia, while the rest of the world is still getting warmer. So but that means also that climate change is not like a linear process.
No.
That is a linear process that is just going like gradually everywhere, leading you into a slightly warmer place. It has when you have a system like the Earth, you have tipping points and you have flipovers, and you have complete changes, and you have extremes. So you have like places that get 8 degrees warmer while others get cooler. But while the Earth is on average getting overall warmer. So,
yeah. Thank you so much for sharing again all the meanings of Og, because I remember that's probably what I heard from you in that first meeting, and for some reason then the part of the zygote and the egg took very special relevance for me, and I'm not surprised that when I went and I had an embodied experience in Og, the Lost Glacier, as you say, there's so much symbolism and that goes like to the future, to the past, to the oneness of the world, and there's so much in it that was a totally transcendental experience for me to be there. So here are the steps of myself hiking on Og. 2 days after we spoke in Skefan 3 years ago, and my experience in there as an embodied experience, you could hear like my steps probably were on snow. It was the end of October, And I think I picked up a lot into the idea of zygote unconsciously, because I didn't like connect the dots until long after. But what I felt in Og was this experience of intense sexual energy, a calling into surrendering into pleasure, an intense sensory awareness, a call into the full potential and aliveness of my senses, and into my full embodied participation into the landscape. And that was a big surprise. I didn't really make sense of it at the time. It has taken time, and it's 3 years after now, to understand what it means. And I almost feel like the unfolding of this experience, or this first experience I had in Og, will be almost like a life unfolding as well for me. And I'm glad that very recently as well, when I released the song The Egg, the first song that I composed with the sounds of Glaciers that I recorded 3 years ago, you reminded me that the egg, as I called it, is this zygote, this cell that is the union of the masculine and the feminine. And then for me it was like, of course, if that's what the name of Og means, this zygote that comes from this union of these two principles, two energies that are part of the making of the world and the creation of the world, it makes sense that what I felt, this elevated sexual energy as the origin, as the beginning of all that has been created, of everything that will ever be created and that have the potential to create, it totally made sense. So that was the main tone and the main note of my experience when I was there, and I was in Og, and I was pretty much alone. So it was going towards winter, all covered with snow, so it was very silent as well. So it was a quite mystical experience. And I'm very curious, Andri, to hear the times you've been there in Og. Of course, for the plaque that you wrote in 2019, probably in other events that have been held to Og. But what have your own feelings and sensations been while being in the place?
Well, yeah, I've never heard this description of.
Yeah, I know it can be surprising, but it's very honest.
No, yeah, thank you for the honesty. And I have been there a few times, and so I went there actually the first time when we put the plaque.
Yeah.
So it's because I've traveled many mountains, and I've gone to very many places around the world, and of course the cell also, or the egg, is also kind of, or also almost an eye. Also is also like the form. So it is like this female.
Yeah.
It looks like an ox cell also. That is it's a perfect circle. On the mountaintop, and if you look over it. So did you walk alone up there?
I worked with a collaborator, Francesco Fabris.
Okay.
We were working together.
Yeah. So because so my honest experience is actually that I felt the mountain disappointing at first, or at not totally, but like the walk is like really just rocks, a very gradual slope all the way up.
Yeah.
And
remember that.
And nothing difficult really, just like up, and but I've been there in all kinds of weather too. So I've been there during summer in like a perfect summer day, but I've also gone up like in a hailstorm, and but what I feel is, I have not felt this energy experience. Maybe other places in nature, but not sharing that. So the what I was surprised, because I kind of made this plaque with this team, was I felt like when you look upon it, that some kind of energy was created there. That is, I felt like when I found the plaque, and even though I wrote it myself, but it's like to go there and visit it, I feel some kind of an awe that is bigger than what I contributed, or just like it creates this connection and these thoughts, because you're looking across the valley to Langjökull.
Yeah.
And there you will see like one of the main glaciers that will be lost in the next. But you threw me off track because I can't really top your experience.
No,
but again, but it's also strange when you create like a connection to a place, like and suddenly you start belonging to it in some way, or you contribute to it. And I've gone there with also many people. I've gone there with my family and parents, and I went with the whole team that was putting up the plaque. I've gone there alone with friends. I went there with artist Katie Patterson. She's an excellent artist, and she put some flowers there. And I came there like a year later, and the flowers were still there. And I have, but I've not like, I'm not. I was because I was going there like for the third time one summer, and I complained to my wife like, oh, I wish I wish it had died on a more fun mountain.
I can see like how the mountain has the orography in itself has nothing special.
No, but actually, when you come up, I feel like it has fun features when you come up.
Yeah.
All these boulders, and actually the old floor of the glacier, and then you have also like these compressed rocks everywhere.
Yeah.
And then you have like I've gone up there with ice sculptures everywhere, because the kind of hail, or not the hail, like the ice creates these monuments. So it's I've gone there many times, but my spirituality is more in the name of it.
Yeah.
And then actually when you go up there, I do not sense loss or grief.
True.
And that's where my thoughts of nature is always right. That is, you can't really, if it had been some kind of machines that had destroyed it, and you would see the tracks of the machines and all that, then you would feel like, wow, this place has been disgraced.
Yes.
But because it's just the absence of a glacier, just like when a valley is flooded, it's you can't really miss what was under the valley, because now it has become a lake. And the absence of the ice, you really have to struggle to know that it's something that you learned, and to imagine it. And it actually, for me, almost did not make sense to miss the ice or miss the glacier, because it was basically the place was perfect as nature also still now. But what I was also having sometimes, and I think maybe I placed my mind in a different place than you did, because I placed my mind in actually not feeling sorry for Okjökull.
Exactly.
Because I was placing my mind that when like foreign journalists would speak to me, I would say, and they would like ask me, and how do you feel about Okjökull? I'm like, I don't really feel so much about that in itself, not more than I miss winter when spring comes or something. It's more that I fear what it's telling me.
Totally.
I fear the big picture of sea level rise, disruption of people, and I just fear this. I feel more sorry for the Amazon,
Exactly.
and I would cry if the Arctic did not turn back one summer,
Yeah.
and the seabirds, and so this is more like the zygote is telling us a much bigger picture.
Bigger picture.
Yeah.
Wow, I love this. I think what you just said is so gold. This part of nature is always right, and I totally can resonate with the fact that I went there and I expected to feel grief maybe or feel sorry, but then all this sort of aliveness and joy came to me, and this intense sensory awareness, and I felt that was more about showing some clues into a little bit what you were saying, like the bigger picture, and how we can relate and be also as beings that are part of nature, in constant transformation as well, and how we can transform as well our relationship. That was for me a bit of a clue into that, and I'll share a little bit more on that. The experience I have here, I wrote after going there and walking there. We are walking on a death myth. We are the only breathing beings in this vast and wild world's end. I am an open flower, fearlessly inhaling the scent. And there was this sensation of being this open flower, and my unique goal, as well as when I went to Og, was to listen. And talking a little bit about this cue that I was telling that I was receiving a bit as a message, is that because there was this invitation to be the open flower, to receive and to experience this zygote as the feminine, from the surrender. There was something that I was getting a lot of. This word surrender was coming a lot, and it was surrendering into pleasure. And it was surprising because as we were saying, like we were talking about a glacier that has disappeared, and we're talking about something that we expect the direct grief of it. But as I think you very right were saying, is like nature is always right, and we need to have this cell, and we need to have this Og in order to make possibly a transformation and understand things differently. So where I'm getting into is into the potential need in our society to rebalance the feminine and the masculine energies, also in how we approach climate change. And by this, I mean, we live in this capitalist patriarchal society. That means that all of us are constantly pushed into doing and producing, and that's what I mean by masculine energy. I'm never talking about genders. I'm talking about these two principles that exist and that are part of the zygote, right? So there's almost no time to listen. There is no time to be the open flower, and sometimes we don't even feel the need to listen to nature. We don't see it as productive, as useful. And it may be that the moment that we truly listen to what nature has to say, we discover that our needs are actually something else. And that takes me a little bit to a climate activism that is connected to the heart, and that sometimes is a bit more about being and feeling and listening than doing. So what are your thoughts into that?
Actually, the best climate action. I met a surfer the other day, and she, the surfer's mother, she was an old Amazon activist, and they had the sloth revolution.
Mm-hmm.
That the answer to the world's problems was being a sloth, just doing less things.
Yeah, yeah.
And moving much slower.
Yeah.
Because what is killing our planet is our speed.
True.
And our speed is powered with oil and coal and gas, and speed of delivery, speed of production, speed of waste. So she was just saying, like, the answer is doing much less.
Yeah.
Look at the sloth and just be where you are.
Yeah.
And use as little energy as you can. I'm not sure how the sloth is enjoying life, but I feel often that the climate discussion is maybe not looking at, and this is very like off the record thoughts almost. It's like we only look at it through the current system.
Yeah, yeah.
Like we look at it in green solutions, green production, green consumption. Even the circular economy is still about things going to waste, but not to last.
Yeah.
Which is and it's like this restlessness. I just met a person that had been working in the fashion industry connected to H&M, where basically he said, we have already produced clothes for the next 7 generations.
Yeah.
So
there's no need to produce anymore. We can stop.
So we have like he said something like we have like 700 billion items of clothes.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane.
Like we have already produced more clothes, and he was telling me how fashion waste, for example, if you order something online and it would be returned, it would be discarded.
Wow.
They would not resell it because it's more expensive to repackage it in Sweden than to make the item and package it in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
And
wow.
or to sort it and repack it and file it in a place. And an online thing does not go back to. So this is of course not related, because fashion and glaciers are connected.
Yeah.
Language and glaciers are connected. Mindset and glaciers. And I was like, and I was thinking when I was telling me that, like, maybe. So like, and also I also had a talk for the military university in Sweden, and I was like asking. There are many ways to approach like existence. That is, you could say, we live in one way, which is this consumption reality that we're in, this democracy of choice and freedom. The military has this duty, service, even sacrifice and order and hierarchy. You can, when I was interviewing the Dalai Lama, you would see like thousands of young men wearing orange robes and maybe doing like a sloth, like doing little or nothing, and singing prayers or chanting, and then you have like so you have the monks, you could have the military, you have our system, and we were discussing, like, are there times when you just have to, like, in a war, you just change the system. That is, like you see in Ukraine now. Suddenly you just stop being a computer scientist and you're just put in a uniform and you're doing something. Is the climate crisis, and people are drafted for service. Is the climate crisis not something you should be drafted for? That is, should I spend, so if there are obvious things to do to fix in our infrastructure, or planting something, or making some kind of defense, or even, finishing the solar panels for Spain or something. Is there like is there no system that we need to make for this predicament, for this situation? Are there not like 5 million people that need to be just have to be drafted to do certain things? Or are there not certain resources that should be almost by hand diverted to this issue? Are there not systems that we do not have yet, like a monk, like a military, like a Björgunarsveit, like the search and rescue squads here in Iceland? Are we just like watching this happen, but we're not making systems to tackle it? And then the laws that we have currently are contradicting the lives of current human beings. That is, the laws that we have are not in the favor, long-term favor, of a young person today.
Exactly.
So things that melt glaciers or throw the earth off balance are legal, and not even just legal, they're even a virtue, or a deed, or so. No, so I was just thinking, like, just like you could say, if we put it again into the Ok-Jökull connection, maybe not only the glacier has to have melted, but maybe some other parts of the reality need to be gone
and change,
and show us the barren rocks too. And then it might be like you're saying, like the real fertilization of something new, but not only something about the end. If I just take up your thoughts.
Yes, and I think this makes me think, in your book Time and Water, there is this emphasis on the difficulty, I think, for all of us probably to grasp what is climate change on a conceptual level, because we can hear concepts like ocean acidification, for which we don't have any memories associated with it. We don't have then any feelings associated with it. We don't have stories associated with it. And then for me, I think one of the missing pieces, we could say here, why are we not creating systems, is because we cannot, as a general society, feel the grasp of it, and feel and almost like feel this very direct, very primal connection to nature, in which we are nature, and we are together, and we are evolving and transforming, and in cycles we are part of this ever evolving life, and that we were saying, like, it's out of balance, and we can look at that from many different angles, where this imbalance comes from, and how it can be changed. But there's this lack of emotional connection, we could say, with when we talk about climate change conceptually. So for me, it becomes important to create embodied connection, to create music, to create experiences that can touch some other parts of our being and of our perception and sensations that are really embodied, because not the body is the vessel and the glacier is the vessel, and there's like this power and this wisdom that is how the vessel also contains information and shares it and transforms it. So going back to your work and how you approach talking about glaciers, how important are stories, who should tell them, and how do we make space for deep listening and for more feeling in our current society when we are dealing with this challenge?
I think that what I've been kind of struggling with or trying to do, like in my book, is to how to understand or how to write about a thing when you discover that the issue is larger than language. And that's maybe where music could maybe be an expression, but how do you, and that's how I go to look at paradigm shifts. So actually, one of my I've been doing many talks, and it almost becomes like a performance that I kind of go in cycles, and one of them is kind of about language and what it means to be here and now, what it means to be in a paradigm shift. Because in a paradigm shift, you could say a language collapses, a way of explaining your stories collapse. Your way of explaining your existence, your place in space, time, country, politics, religion, science collapses. So suddenly something is unveiled, something flips over. And when you enter the new reality, new language has to be created. So I take these examples of like when we belonged to the religion of the Nordic mythology, and we went into Christianity. Poets, they explained everything in a reference point to Nordic mythology. That is, they did not say earth, they said the Odin's bride, and they did not say heaven or sky, they said the dwarf's helmet, because that was how you were supposed to say it in the language of poetry.
Is there a specific translation that we can hear from these words that you were saying in Icelandic, or not, or were not Icelandic?
This was Icelandic.
Yeah, this was Icelandic.
This is Icelandic in the year 900.
Yeah.
Dvergahjálmur og brúður Óðins. So Earth would be the Odin's bride, and that would refer to the cosmology.
Right.
So then they become Christian.
Yeah.
And they're trying to explain the creator of heaven and earth, and they cannot explain the creator of heaven and earth without saying the creator of Odin's bride and the dwarf's helmet.
Yeah.
So they could not explain the new reality without the whole legacy. Of the old reality. And it takes like 100 years to shake that off, but it's never totally shaken off. But then they could say like Heyr himna smiður, which is like in the poem Heyr himna smiður. So that's like hey, carpenter of the heavens, and that points directly to Jesus. That doesn't take Odin before you go to Jesus. Or God. It takes God more than Jesus. so what I'm trying to say is that I feel like we're in this transition now. That is, we're trying to explain our reality and what we have to do to solve it with a language that is saturated with coal, oil, and gas, a system, a legal system, just everything that you could call it like almost like oil entitlement. You know,
Yeah.
I'm entitled to this energy
Yeah.
and to burn it and to benefit from it,
Yeah.
while it is actually already morally wrong.
Totally.
Like our existence is morally wrong, but we're in it.
Yeah.
And out of this comes some kind of cynicism, denial, and
Yeah.
and
Power struggles as well of
and
who.
power struggles, and then even like drill baby drill or something. Like the old system is just struggling to keep.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to explain is that we're in this transition. So it's almost like, and also trying to understand what it means to be in this place and how people will look back to it. So let's pretend that we still had slaves. You know, we had slaves here in Iceland, and I would be, and our podcast would be like how to treat your slave, how to motivate them, how to not have them fat but fit, and also like, and I would have like a whip that is a bit softer, and that makes them just happier, and you know, so it was just like we'd be speaking in horrible terms, you know, and but we would feel like we were good people. That is compared to the rest of us. We're trying to improve the system.
Exactly. Yeah.
But basically,
we need to just get rid of the system.
But we'd be suggesting some kind of green approvals to a system that is, but we would still be in the mindset, I'm still gonna have a slave, you know. So it's So, and I'm not saying that I have any solutions. I feel like it's just helpful to bring out the thought that you don't understand when I say ocean acidification. As a scientist, I just measured it. I still don't understand it.
Exactly. Yeah, true.
And because I mirror myself against you, and so when I explain it to you, and maybe I don't understand it until you understand it.
Yeah.
Or maybe we are not enough to understand it. Maybe we don't understand it until everybody understands it, and then finally the scientist freaks out and starts to cry because he suddenly understands it. Yes. So it's kind of a difficulty to understand what it means to not understand, while you're also living in a society that you know is on the end of the line of something.
Yeah.
You know, so, and you miss this innocence of the 90s when I just wanted to buy myself a big Mercedes and fly all around and just make my dreams come true. We're like, and how to reverse this into, okay, what's next? How do we grow from here? Or do we grow? And when I say grow, am I also in the old mindset?
Exactly. Yeah.
But grow is also a very organic thing, and then it's also about speed and energy, and it's really fun to be a human when everything is like going really fast, and it's like we create surface, just like this table here is just speed of atoms, and as soon as they stop, then it's there is nothing here. As soon as the speed stops, then there is no table here. And in a way, you could say that oil creates this surface that we stand on, and our speed just creates this. We can just and as soon as this stops, we just start falling, and we don't really know we're gonna fall.
Then we don't really know who we are, where are we, and the speed concept, I think, is very, very interesting, and for me, like, it has this connection to the more masculine energies of capitalism, and what we're saying that I think we all know is also coming to a point of transformation. And you were saying that grow is natural and degrow is also natural. I think there's the principles of life are this pulsing, that contraction and expansion. That is what makes our heart pump oxygen, and the seasons as well are showing us like this going into the emptiness in winter, into the darkness, and then always the spring comes. We are part of these cycles, and the cycles that are bigger also that we can imagine, and that's also when we come back to the concept of time. Because I think also in your book you talk about being at this crossroad, going back to glaciers of geological time and human time, and how the glaciers are starting to move at human time almost, and that's where the imbalance comes.
If you're like super, it's almost at human time. That is, if you're super patient, you could. Because if a glacier recedes 100 meters a year, that receding would happen during the days of summer. That is, it would happen maybe from June to late August, which might be 100 days. And that means if an edge of a glacier, you could expect that it might move 1 meter per day in July, or even 2 meters per day on a very like peak summer day. That means if you would be almost like a Japanese movement artist.
Butoh.
Butoh. If you would
dance.
Butoh, you could actually do like a butoh dance
of the glacier.
With the glacier, where you would capture that speed.
Wow.
And start moving in the melting speed of a glacier.
That's beautiful.
So that would be like 1 meter per day. So you could, if you were super patient, you could stand, you could put your hand on the wall.
True.
And then 1 day later, you're 1 meter away from the glacier. But then again, that goes to what we experienced on Okjökull. You don't see anything wrong. That is because nature is always right. And the absence is just something new. And I'm not sure how you frame that in birth or death, or it's actually where I understood that I never really understood was Kali, how something was supposed to be creative and destructive at the same time, and I never really.
Okay.
Because I always thought about it in terms maybe of violence and war or something, and I never felt like you could destroy something and create simultaneously. I just saw destruction or not.
I think,
But
sorry.
But when you watch like a glacier receding, then you are watching creation and destruction as a single event that can't be detangled from the other. So it is destruction and creation. Happening.
Exactly. No, that's Goddess Kali, isn't it? I think maybe we are used to think in terms in a very dual mind, that we think is either destruction or creation, and I think is beautiful to come to know or understand that is part of the same thing. And when we're talking about life and death, is part of the same cycle as well. So I think that's a personification or a goddess like Kali means, and I feel there's a power in that, and sometimes destruction is needed for regeneration, right? Is needed for creation. Like we cannot just put stuff on top of other stuff, and it keeps like creating. And I think, like being a woman as well, like you have to empty. We live our moon cycles as well, like, and we experience this in the body, like there's this emptying, like the moon, and then if we don't have that, we cannot go to full moon again. So it's totally, I think, part of the integration of all the forces of life, no? And destruction I see as important and necessary as creation, and almost like a part of it. And yeah, it makes me think also, how it's very interesting, I think, how we frame or how we can understand destruction in a way that, how we can also accept maybe destruction as society, in a way that is, we don't see it as the evil, and how, but I think it's a very conflicting topic as well, because you can associate it with all the evil things that are happening in the world, these forces of destruction. But I think when we are talking about nature and how there's these life and death cycles, is when it makes more sense.
I feel like this time factor, like nature leaving geological speed, entering human speed. We measure our lives in how often we travel around the sun.
Yeah.
So I have gone 50 once around the sun.
Mm-hmm.
We measure our lives in against some kind of a geological cycle.
Mm-hmm.
If we imagine Earth had doubled its speed,
Mm-hmm.
would I continue measuring my life in that way? When would I suddenly be like 52 in June?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
and would we just let the days become shorter? So it's like if Earth would just double its speed around, would we still count our days in how often we go around the sun? If we had, for some reason, decided to measure our lives in the speed of glaciers, or how fast they melt,
interesting.
that means I'm living like 20 years each year.
Yeah.
Because that's how it has increased in its movement of speed. That is, in movements of glaciers, they are moving like 20 times faster than they did. If I would measure my life in the pH level of the world oceans, then I am living almost 1 million years every single year. That is the increase in the speed of the change of the ocean. So next year I will be 1 million years older, and a scientist, he will be like a time traveler. He will have a scope of change that only if he was a member of a cult of scientists since the beginning of the Homo species, he is seeing more as a single individual than like 200,000 generations before him. That is the speed of the change. So that's basically what I'm trying to grasp is, what does it mean when we're suddenly going twice as fast around the sun? What does time mean?
Yes.
What do our ideas mean? What do our values mean? What do our politics mean? When everything is kind of thrown up into the air, what is my entitlement? And then I can go to a much more ground-based place where I'm trying to connect people to time. And that is when I just take my daughter to my grandmother's house to explain to people that we don't even understand 2100. That is, we can talk about time not existing or time being abstract or all these like time doesn't really exist or everything exists. All these like philosophical, scientific or
generations exist, no?
Yeah, but even and we can talk really philosophical about things, but basically if I just super ground it, then it means that 2100 is meaningless culturally. I'm raised with the year 2000 as the future. I believe 1970 was 30 years ago. Most of my friends do, and I feel like 2100 is always after 100 years, and 2050 is after 50 years. So when a scientist says 2100, we don't feel anything. It does not create a reaction. So one of the big projects I'm doing in Time and Water and in my talks is to bring 2100 and out of the range of dystopia and sci-fi into pancake sci-fi, into our closest range. So I take my daughter to my grandmother's house and we calculate when she becomes as old as grandmother, and she finds out she will be as old as grandmother in the year 2104.
Yes.
And she will meet and maybe influence somebody born 2080. She will maybe deeply influence that person. And that person is still remembering my daughter in the year 2170. And then we have already gone into this cycle of the oak plaque. My daughter, so when I say in the next 200 years all our glaciers will follow that path, it sounds very sci-fi, it sounds very far. My daughter will meet that person and she will influence that person, and that might even be the favorite person in her life. Maybe she will feel like me on the top of Åkjökull. She will find new places that are beautiful, that are mystical, glacial lagoons that don't exist now. They might find maybe a geothermal area will be unraveled, that and maybe trees will be growing to the edge of the glacier. So that's a scenario. But maybe things will just be very chaotic and people will just be running around the planet and running away from either nature or each other. So because if the balance is disturbed, then there are just many scenarios, and I feel like we are not being properly responsible for the consequences of this happening. So maybe she will be driving around Iceland in her electric car, or maybe even they'll have like a drones that are like carrying them around. But and maybe very beautiful valleys that are now under ice will be revealed, and they will actually cherish these places and love them, just like the Iceland that I love is actually kind of an ecological disaster from overgrazing the little ice age, and so I love the disaster, and I call it untouched nature. and so I was going into those abstract thoughts when I was like, maybe they'll just love this and they won't miss the current shoreline. It was just have another beach, and maybe downtown Reykjavik will be like a little Venice with water. And even if it will be in ruins, we would still like go around this Reykjavik. But I think, I think we have to take really special care.
100%. I loved all of these exercises of imagination of how do we measure ourselves, like can we measure ourselves in relation to glaciers? I mean, I think with thoughts like that, like we can get closer to being with, no, and to being in this relationship and not being like separated.
Yes, because I think the reason I could write my book was there are not just many people that have a generational relationship with a glacier and science like I do. Having my grandparents as founding partners of the Glacial Research Society.
Yes.
So, because glaciers are like sharks. Glaciers are not really nice. That is, at least in Iceland, they have not treated us well throughout history. The growth of a glacier in Iceland is not a good sign for a human in Iceland.
Yeah.
And they were growing from the 1300s to 1900. And so the growth of glaciers, and I don't think anybody, like talking about paradigm shifts, anybody believed that you could actually worry about a glacier otherwise than just it's spread and it's danger and and so I'm the first generation that can worry about a glacier or believe that I can make words that will influence a glacier. But that's also a bit absurd. It's almost like I'm in the age of magic, when words and mountains and weather, were related. But that is scientifically proven that words and glaciers are connected. So actually, by putting words on the mountaintop in some kind of a ceremony, some kind of it's again like we're in the age of magic. We're putting these sorcery words, and we're hoping that these words will spread around the planet. And I'm doing that. You've done that. So we're hoping that these words will influence our behavior. That will influence our laws. That will influence both our creativity and our productions and our consumption, and that in the end we will harm the glaciers less or even save them. So we are in the age of magic. We are doing rain dances.
I think so. We are. I almost feel emotional now to hear these words. There is magic. I feel in as humans giving words to glaciers, giving sounds, and not only giving, like it's almost like I feel like we are as communicators, like the messengers, not the ones who carry their own, the glacier's own voice and own message and own world's history, memories into a spread of the languages that we have created as humans to influence, as you were saying, the people around us, and I like also the idea of influence, even the landscape, no, and how it all can be enlivened together. So I'd like to maybe finish going back to Og. I besides recording the sounds of glaciers when I came here in Iceland for the first time, when I went to the glaciers, I also collaborated, I would say, with the sounds of glaciers with my own voice as singer. I was improvising songs on site, and then after is when I created the compositions I'm starting to share now with the world, that are combining these two voices, the voices of Glaciers, the voice of my own, that on the one hand takes as sound material the recordings that I did there on site, and then after this I also created like words in language that provide a more defined stories and myths. So I'd like to play an excerpt of me singing in Og. We have to remember with this feeling of intense sexual energy, so how I was expressing and collaborating with that with my voice, and then this has been used and reframed in a different way sonically in my composition, The Egg. Yeah, so the wind responding to the singing.
Yeah, the wind came in there.
Yeah, exactly. Came to say.
Was that the masculine energy?
I think so. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean there was either silence in Og because all the water and ice melted, and either silence, and when the wind came, it was like this. This sound that this language that the Og Glacier had to give information as well. Yeah, so thank you very much, Andri. It's been such an honor to talk to you, to listen to you. I don't know if there's anything else you want to say, to ask, to share.
I think we've covered everything from 50 million years to the sun going faster. Now the earth is running faster, so I think we've kind of...
Yeah.
I'm not sure we've gone to the Himalayas and the Amazon and the oceans and grandmothers.
Okay.
So I think
we're good.
I think we're good, yeah.
Thank you so much for your time and for your wisdom and your generosity.
Thank you, and honored to have had something to do with your project from our meeting in amazing Skevan.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. Thank you so much. We'll end here. Listening a little bit of The Egg that has been released recently. The first song that I composed with Icelandic Glaciers, and that you can listen fully on Spotify, on all streaming platforms, also available in Bandcamp and YouTube as music video, and we really hope you enjoy it.